Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Trying to Figure It Out. I'm Ali Petiti, and here on Trying to Figure It Out, we do exactly that. We try to figure it all out, and we talk about things like friendship, mental health, dating, sexuality, and we learn a lot about life along the way. This week on Trying to Figure It Out, we're getting into friendship, parent dynamics, sexuality, and more, and I'm so excited to do it with a very close friend of mine. Welcome to Trying to Figure It Out, Quentin.
Hi, excited to be here.
I'm so
Thank you
excited.
for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here. You are one of my favorite people. You make me laugh so much. We've shared so many memories together.
We've traveled.
We've
Been around.
We've gone to Disney, obviously. That's a big
Universal.
step. If you've gone to Disney, oh my God, we did. We have done so many things together. And if you go to Disney with me, you're on a list. You make it into a list of a special kind of friend.
There's a Disney tier friend.
Exactly. And you have made it to that level. So we're pretty close, I would say.
We are. I love it.
Anyway, I met you through my friend Ashley, who was also your friend,
Yes.
who you grew up with. And I feel like since then, we've really hit it off.
We hit the ground running.
We've been to Vegas together.
I told you, we've traveled. We've been around town.
Oh yeah, Vegas is its own story on its own.
Oh my
God, we'll get
gosh.
into all of that. But aside from all the fun we have together and how amazing of a person you are, you've been through so much, and there's so much of a story that you have to share, and there's so much of your story specifically that can help so many people, specifically the people who listen to this podcast. So you were born and raised in LA. What part of the city are you from, and what was it like growing up in such a big city?
Growing up, it was good. It was good and bad. Nothing's perfect. But I had everything I could have needed. My parents supplied everything. But was something that was really kind of weird for me was that I grew up in a part of LA that was very middle class. I grew up on Crenshaw and Olympic Boulevard. It's mid city, kind of by Koreatown.
Is that Miracle Mile? Is
Yeah, it's super close to Miracle Mile.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. And so I noticed that it's in between actually Hancock Park and Koreatown.
Yeah.
And Hancock Park is a very affluent, super nice neighborhood. And then Koreatown is, a little bit more city, apartments and things like that. And so I grew up in this kind of in between of never really feeling like I belonged to either. I had friends growing up that were extremely wealthy and grew up in very nice homes. And then on the other side of the spectrum, people, living with 5 people in a 1-bedroom apartment type thing.
Right.
And so it was actually, it's also a good experience, I think, too, just having that kind of spectrum at a young age and just being exposed to that.
For sure.
To show you kind of the top of the top and honestly a very low as well socioeconomically. And it makes you kind of grow up quickly as well. I think that being in a big city, I think you're exposed to a lot.
Yeah.
Again, good and bad.
Yeah.
And so for me growing up, I also grew up with a father who was an immigrant from Switzerland, and my mother is actually from LA. So I was first generation American on one side, and then second generation LA on the other side. So it's talking about a spectrum that I was shown and exposed to from an early age.
100%.
And then growing up, my parents were very into yoga, natural kind of way of life. We were very involved in this philosophical group. It's the easiest way to describe it is kind of a cult. Although there's a negative connotation, obviously, with the word cult. However, this is something that was a big positive in my life. We had people over at the house, I'd say twice a week, adults from, all walks of life. And they would just kind of talk about, philosophers and ways of thinking and things like that are not necessarily religion oriented, more so agnostic. But just more about spirituality.
Right.
And so it was actually cool. It's kind of I had this extended family, which is really nice. And I still keep in touch with actually these people who are part of the academy is what it's called.
That's amazing.
So I grew up in this kind of community actually, and I'm still in touch with the kids of the community.
Yeah.
And it kind of exposed me to adults from a very young age.
Right.
And I was always around adults. And so I think it has kind of impacted me growing up into my adult life.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's so good to know. So what was your relationship like with your parents growing up?
I was always a mama's boy. I was this is so embarrassing. I breastfed till I was 4 years old.
I'm dead.
I was able to verbalize to my mother that I wanted breast milk.
You're
I was able,
give me the tit.
I was
I
finishing homework and then be as a midnight snack or whatever, I want breast milk. But so definitely to answer your question, mama's boy. My father was kind of like a stay-at-home dad, took care of everything, was very much the one like driving us to school, cooking every meal, cleaning the house, things like that, where my mother was the one working and making the money, essentially. My mom was a breadwinner. So it was kind of like reverse roles in that sense, traditional roles at least.
Yeah.
And so my father, like I said, it was an immigrant. We were not close throughout my childhood. He definitely, I think, struggled with being in America. I think that he was kind of finding himself.
Yeah.
And through that, our relationship was pretty tough, actually. Like, he was not an emotional person at all. I wasn't necessarily so great at expressing that. And it came out in probably not the best ways. My mom was different. She was very emotional, super sensitive, like very loving in that way. And so that's why I think I gravitated towards her more.
Absolutely.
Eventually, my mom did kick out my father. It's funny, like I kind of like blacked everything out. My parents were not the ones to communicate their problems to us ever, 100%. My brother and I. It's like you kind of just like, yeah, like my parents would fight, but never in front of us.
Yep.
And one day it's just like, okay, like Poppy's going back to Switzerland.
And you're
I'm
like, what?
Kind of just like, okay, like nothing and anything's wrong. And then, you know, a couple weeks later, it's like mom has a boyfriend. And it's like,
what is happening?
It's just like very confusing. And
I understand.
So, right?
I literally just talked about this.
And
so
it's like, I don't even know what's better or worse though. It's like, as somebody, is it better to like leave your kid out of the loop and what's going on? Or is it better to kind of like inform them of what's happening? Like,
there's no right or wrong, but it's really, it's so weird when it happens to you. You're like, I don't know what would have been better, because there's no answer to that.
Because obviously that happened one way and there's no other way to go back. So my dad left. Honestly, it only lasted about a year. He came back, and that's when he became very religious. I don't know if you're aware. I think you are.
You've told me some
to a
stuff.
certain extent. So my dad was never religious. My parents were never religious. They were like spiritual, like I said. They were part of this kind of like cult, for lack of a better term. But so he came back actually super religious. And I think my mom was really set on making the marriage work and was really open-minded to embracing religion. And therefore, from the day he got back, so I'm maybe like 10, 11 at this point, he went to church every single day and has yet to miss a day. And my mom kind of like followed suit, and they became super religious from the point I was maybe like 10, 11 on. But then my mom passed when I was 17, and my dad left when I was 18 to join the seminary and become a Catholic priest.
So your dad was really religious growing up once he came back, and your mom partook in that as well. And they were able to make things work.
Totally.
And like, it was a happy marriage from that point.
So happy. I mean, he never being very honest, like hit me again afterwards. Not that we had like a great relationship afterwards, but it was a lot healthier.
Right.
And they transitioned away from like this academy, this like cult, like spiritual group, and their new like spiritual group became the Catholic Church. And so they attended church every single morning. And then throughout my mom, for the rest of her life until I was 17 when she passed, they went to church every single day. All their friends were involved in the church. Their entire community revolved around the church. And that was their way of life, honestly. It was, everything was evolved some way or another, was evolved around religion.
When your mom passed, do you think that that's what pushed your dad to then, because he didn't have her anymore, he decided he wanted to become a priest? Or do you think that if your mom had still been alive, that would have been the route he would have taken?
Well, so in Catholicism, you
can't be married.
Exactly. You can't be divorced neither.
Right.
Like the only route you can kind of go down is through death, or, I mean, I guess they can like annul your marriage, but I don't think that's
a process. Yeah.
Like I said before, he was kind of like a stay-at-home dad. So his life was totally reliant on my mom.
Right.
And so she was kind of like the leader in like the social aspect. She kind of like I said, made the money. So she was definitely like the more like dominant in that realm. And so he kind of like followed suit and whatever she did. So after her passing, he, I think, was maybe, a little lost. I mean, I've never spoken to him about it, but I can assume that, when you lose your life partner, and he was like it's like sign sealed delivered. Yeah. He's like the type of person where like he's had sex, he told me, with like 5 or 6 people his whole life. So like, this is not somebody that's going to go out and like be fucking bitches. Like, no, he was like done, I mean, so she died when I was 17. I'm a junior of high school. And then he, I'm sure internally, was kind of mulling over options on how to move forward of this, like I'm sure, it's a tough time, and so he then decided, I was my senior year of high school, he decided to leave and joined the seminary, to the point where like, it's rare for a priest to have children.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to be accepted to be a priest.
Yeah. I mean, it's a
process.
It's a 7-year. He's actually still not a priest yet. So he left my senior year of high school.
Wow.
And he is still not a priest. So we graduated in 2016. It's 2022.
Wow.
He will become a priest in June of 2023.
Have you been a part of that journey with him?
So removed. I was 100% supportive of him. Obviously, right. I'm gay. And so it's not necessarily something that aligns with, actually more so, I don't align necessarily so much with his views and his community's views.
Catholicism is pretty,
Right. Yeah. It's rigid in that sense. I was always very supportive. I always operate my life that whatever you as an adult want to do, I support you as long as you treat me with respect. I don't care what your views are, what you think, what you believe, whatever you do, as long as you just treat people with respect is all I care about, honestly. So he actually asked me when he was thinking about it, he's like, I'm thinking about doing this. Like, how do you feel? I'm like, look, as long as you're happy, like do your thing. Like I know I can take care of myself. I've always been very independent.
Right.
So he left. And so to answer your question, I've not been a part of it. I mean, I have visited him maybe twice at the seminary.
Are there rules about you being able to visit?
No,
is it
not even? They're actually super open-minded, and honestly, like if I wanted to, like I could be there as much as I wanted.
Right.
But I mean, like I have no interest in going up there. And he tries to get me out there over the past 7 years, but I'm very just like I would rather do a lot of other things.
I mean, I get that.
Right, and so, but I do see him every once in a while. His seminary is an hour away, so I see him, I'd say like once a quarter. So I've not been involved in this process. I have no idea what he does, where he lives or anything. And we've just kind of like gone our separate ways. So I've kind of essentially just been on my own since I was a kid, like the 18-year-old.
Well, I have so much respect for you and thank you for sharing that. But I do want to backtrack a little bit and just ask you, while you were going through all of this, you just expressed to all of us that you are gay. So at what point during this entire journey for you as a child and growing up did you kind of start to discover your sexuality and learn more about who you are? How did that coincide with what was happening with your mom and what was happening with your dad all together?
Totally.
And what were those conversations like?
Yeah, no, that's, I've always had a thing for dudes. Always, always, always. However, this is what I always say, that I always knew I liked men. However, I did not always know I wasn't into girls. I think that once you tell yourself something for so long, you kind of start to believe it. So like obviously growing up in this heteronormative world, we're kind of taught that, okay, like as a boy, I'm into girls. So, like I told myself that for so long and I genuinely believed it. Like I was not ever like hooking up with girls and being like grossed out, for example. Like I really, even now, like girls don't gross me out, but I did believe it for a very long time that I was seriously like sexually attracted to women until I was about 16, 17. I was like, okay, this can't be right. Like my attraction to women is definitely not that strong. I think they're beautiful and I think they're amazing. I think they're super sexy. However, it doesn't necessarily like get me going. And so it definitely took me, a while, like 16, 17 years old is when I would say I really was like, okay, maybe there's something more here. Maybe this like attraction I have to men is not normal or like what all my other friends are feeling.
Sad that normal is a term,
sorry.
But I understand what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And so I definitely started exploring my sexuality more when I was like 16, 17. Not actually having sex with anyone until I was actually 18.
Okay.
For the record. I sincerely did not have sex with anyone until I was 18. So, I mean, going through, like to answer your question, so I always knew I was attracted to guys. It took me a while to realize I didn't have this attraction towards women. I started exploring it a little bit. And so as my mom was sick, I mean, like as like cliche and kind of tacky as it sounds, I kind of was like, you know what, like life is pretty short. And my mom was diagnosed in July and dead in November. So like there was a pretty short span of time where, her sickness was a reality. And then, next thing you know, she's dead. And so I started to realize, like this is something I feel I wanted to pursue it more. So I was actually promoting in high school, like nightclubs in LA.
I love that for you.
And I was like bi at this point. And I remember like my girlfriends that I would bring, like they're like talking to these gay boys and then like I like will run over and like kind of introduce myself and they're like, oh, we're going to an after party. And that's actually kind of how I started into my gay life, which
Yeah.
through going out and through like kind of like partying.
Yeah, because you get to see something
it's
different.
exposure,
Like
yeah.
you're not seeing that when you're in your bubble at home, when
Exactly.
you're in the circle of your parents and your
Totally.
school and what the quote norm is. Especially
Yeah.
like we're going back like 10 years ago,
Yeah.
maybe more than that. And like
this is before
it
like
was a
Instagram
different-
and TikTok. I mean, like
such a
Instagram was
different
around.
time.
Yeah. It was really eye-opening for me too, because at high school there were gay guys. I went to an all-boys Catholic school, and there were guys that were open and super comfortable with themselves, and which is so amazing. However, I just never really related to any of them. So going out into these clubs and seeing these older gay guys who were like, you know, like 28, 30, 32. And I'm like, okay, these are guys that I feel like I can connect with. I'm attracted to. Like there's something here. And so
For sure.
I was really intrigued by that. And that kind of was a catalyst to me coming out. And so at this point, my mom has been dead for like a year or two. This is my senior year of high school is when I fully started to come out to everyone, my friends and my family. But my dad was actually the last person to find out.
Yeah.
He was away at the seminary. I remember the story actually. I came home after like partying like all night. It's like 8 a.m. And my dad was visiting and staying with me.
You were how old?
With him, I was 19.
Okay.
Everyone I came out at 18. For him, I was 19.
19.
And I'm coming home after a long night of partying. It's like literally 8 a.m. He's fully making breakfast. And I'm undressing to get in my pajamas to go to sleep. And he's like, you know, he was a very passive parent. So he never was going to tell me like I'm crazy or I'm wrong.
He kind of didn't want to know.
Yeah. But like at this point, he thinks I'm straight. And so I'm getting dressed and we're kind of like chatting, or I'm getting dressed in my pajamas and we're kind of chatting, and a condom actually fell out of my wallet, and he's kind of like teasing me. At this point, I'm 19 in college, and he's teasing me. He's like, "Oh, like, who are you having sex with?" Like, kind of like in a joking way, like, "Come on, like, tell me whatever." And I'm like, "Dad, like, no, like, don't worry about it." And he's like, kind of like prying and poking. And my dad doesn't speak English is his second language. He speaks English fluently, but it's just definitely his second language. And he's like, you know, asking these questions, and I'm like, finally, I call my dad Puppy, and I'm like, Puppy, like. What did I say? I was like, I don't like girls. And he's like, oh, so you're having sex with the girls and you don't even like them? He's like, when you need to have sex with someone, you need to have a connection. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is not what I need fully. And I'm no, like I'm gay. And he took like 5 minutes and he was like, you're joking. And I was like, no, it's serious. Like I've been out to literally everyone except for you for like
a year.
6 months, honestly, almost a year at this point. The time I sort of started coming out, it's been a year at this point. And then he actually sent me a really nice message. I went to sleep at 8 a.m. when I was going to bed, and he was leaving and making breakfast.
Crazy vibe.
Right, Jimmy, just actually insane. And so I go to bed after our like a 5-10 minute conversation where he's just like stunned. Like talk about too stunned to speak. This man was stunned.
Yeah.
And he sends me a nice message, just like, hey, look, like I thank you for telling me. I'll always love you, and that was it. And we never really like talked about my sexuality in that like serious of a tone again. And so I'm very fortunate that although my father is quite religious, he's always been accepting of my sexuality. So I know a lot of people that, you know, maybe have religious parents, they struggle with their parents accepting them. Shame. I mean, kids get kicked out all the time. I mean, like, yes, my father is as religious as one gets. You know, when you're a priest, you devote everything. You take a vow of poverty, you take a vow of celibacy, you give up everything. And so for me to have a parent that was as religious as one can get, but also supportive of just the way I'm born, I felt lucky, even though I shouldn't feel lucky. That should be the norm, obviously.
100%.
But I do feel grateful in that sense. Yeah.
I'm so glad. Well, thank you for sharing that. Do you feel like you got a chance to show your mom your identity before she passed?
You know, that's funny. I think about that, and people have also asked me that before. I never got the chance to come out to my mom. You know what? I was 17 and she was on her deathbed. So my mom, I never said she had cancer. So there was a process of her eventually passing.
Right.
And so I remember one night she was on her deathbed and in the house, and I kind of was talking to her as I do sometimes when she was she was not non-responsive.
In and out.
But I was still just like, you know, just like chatting. And I really wanted to come out with her because at this point I did know that I was gay.
Right.
And I kind of like framed it as like, you know, like, I know I'm like the closest thing you had to a daughter, which I don't know why I went there.
Yeah.
But I think that was kind of me trying to be like acknowledging my femininity, because I know that I was definitely more feminine than my brother, in the sense of like I was like dancing around like Destiny's Child as a kid and like very like flamboyant in certain ways. Right. And so I did tried not super hard to come out, but I wasn't ready. You know, it's not something that you can force. Anyone can force.
Absolutely.
So.
And you know what? I believe that like your mom is your mom.
Yeah.
She was connected to you in every possible way she could have.
And it honestly, me not coming out to her has never bothered me. It's funny, like her really good friends that are my family friends have told me that she kind of was aware based on my behavior as a kid.
Yeah.
Like really into Beyonce. Like very into Beyonce. Like you full choreo.
I love that. That's
so yeah, so I never got a chance to come out, although one, it never bothers me, and two, some people do think that she would have known, or that she did know, and that she had discussed it with her friends when I was a kid.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
I really appreciate it. We're going to move on to some friendship stuff and just talk about what, you know, the other side of things growing up was like for you. Going through all that you went through while you were in high school, like we were just kind of talking about, what would you describe your high school experience to be like?
The best time ever.
Really?
I mean, this is what I say. I don't think I'm a good representation for what it's like to be a queer kid at an all boys Catholic school that is like very sport oriented too.
Yeah.
I was like playing sports. I was like not out.
Yeah. You were like a jock.
Definitely a jock. I was definitely like party boy, like trying to hook up with girls, you know? So like,
yeah.
I have a lot of older friends and who are gay, and they'll always kind of ask me like what it's like to grow up being gay in LA in like a very like more modern time. And I'm like, I'm the worst person to ask, because when I came out a little bit later, I mean, 18, it's all relative, I guess. But I also like, I fit into like the hetero kind of like norm idealized thing where like I'm 6'3", I played sports. I have like a deeper voice maybe than other gay kids. And, you know, I can, if I want to, I'm like straight passing, you know, in certain settings.
100%. That's a great way to put it.
For me, I mean, I had the best time ever. High school was so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I was on this volleyball team with these guys and we did everything together. We did like, we played sports at school together. Then we would like go on tournaments in the weekend. So I was spending like so much time with these guys. We would practice in the night. I mean, like they're like family to me, like they're brothers. Like, I would literally like bus home with them and like stay at their family's places. Cause like practice would be in the Palisades or like on the West Side. And I lived more like inner city, and none of them lived inner city. They're all like beach city kids. And I was like the one inner city kid.
Right.
And so they kind of like took me under their wing. I definitely was an outsider in that aspect. Like, I didn't, like I said, grow up by the beach. They all grew up playing volleyball. Right. I got kind of picked and thrown into volleyball just because people saw me play basketball and they were like, oh, he should play volleyball. So high school was great. I think that the relationships I have with these guys that I played on my team with, I'm still, best friends with. You know, like Adam, like I think came to your birthday.
Yeah, I love Adam.
And so I'm still super close to all these guys. And like I said, they're all straight and, you know, like kind of jock types. And for me, like my friendships were kind of revolved around my sport. So I quit actually volleyball my junior year. And this was when around my mom dying. And that was when I really started like partying more in the West Hollywood. I became like I said, like a promoter at these clubs and then going out like 3 times a week. And that kind of, like I said, was a catalyst into me meeting people and my eventual coming out. So for me, my friendships for the first 3/4 of my high school experience were just strictly around sports and strictly around like where you kind of lived. And then going forward, like the end of my junior year, all of my senior year was more so like, okay, like I stayed more into like the West Hollywood area, and I was more, honestly, I wasn't really hanging out with that many high school kids at that point. I really had kind of like was fascinated by this new world that I had been exposed to and had opened up. And also I keep everyone at a distance. I'm not close like this with like anyone. So all my friendships for all my life have been super positive because I keep everyone arm's distance. I'm like very much a floater. Yeah. I'm not the type to like have one friend group that I do everything with. And that, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'll see you like 3 times in a week and then I'll disappear for like 2 months. I'm also just like very drama averse, and I find that like the closer people are, the more it can open the door to
100%.
drama, or people get offended, or people get hurt if they're maybe not invited to something. And like for me, I'm just like, I have no time for that. So
No,
like
literally.
I'm the most like drama averse. Like I don't
can't
get
think
in
of
fights.
one conflict story
No.
related to you that like I've
I don't
ever
get in co- I don't
heard.
get in
I've
conflicts.
never heard of that in my
I don't get in
life. I've
conflicts.
never heard a single story of drama surrounding
No,
you. I've
I'm
only
like-
heard positive.
I'm
and like,
out. It goes into my like romantic relationships as well, which
For
is maybe
sure.
not the best thing, because if there's
Yeah.
any type of drama, I'm like
You're
out
like,
the door.
see ya.
But yeah, so there's definitely some pros and cons to it.
So who do you open up to though? Like who do you really depend on? Because there has to be,
Yeah.
you know, at some
It's
point you
true.
need someone. You can't just bear all of it on your own. So who are those people and what kind of standards do you hold them to?
It's sad, but like I try to just like keep my shit to myself is how I
Yeah.
kind of operate.
I feel like you like live by the classic, like you leave your dirty laundry at home.
1000%. Like if I'm going through anything, or if I'm feeling some type of way, it's like no one knows about it. And
Yeah.
if I am in a relationship, I definitely do actually open up to like my
Right.
partners, or maybe if I'm not even like in a labeled relationship with the person, if I'm
Right.
like dating someone, I definitely will open up to them. So like if I'm in that scenario where I have like a romantic person that I'm interested in, I will
Maybe
open
them.
up to them. But other than that, I'm like very closed off in that sense.
Yeah.
It's something to work on. I think that it's something that I as I'm getting older, I should be better at, because I don't necessarily think it's the healthiest thing.
I think it's a mix. It's like
Yeah.
you have to find what works for you. And I think protecting yourself, if that's what's worked for you
Mm-hmm.
up until now, you're 25, 24.
I'll be 25 on Sunday.
Oh my God. So soon. Well, you're about to be 25. And I think that just in general, it's so important to know what you need for yourself and
Yeah.
how you can take care of
Yeah.
yourself. And you, like you just said, that's something you could also work on. And like, you know,
It's-
I'm always here. You can call me. You have to remember,
Yeah.
like the way you grew up
Is
years of
totally,
silence,
yeah.
years of fear, years of bottling things in. So if it's been 7 years since you came out,
yeah.
8 years since you came out, I think it's very fair that you're still navigating
For sure.
how to let people in and to what extent that works for you.
And also for me too, like I was in survival mode from the get-go. Like
Of
for me, like, you know,
course.
like no mom, no dad, you know,
Yeah.
who's not working and making any money. Like,
That's
we
where
have-
you are right now. I mean,
we have
I know
nothing.
you're a hustler.
Yeah. So like for me, it was like, I have no time to like
Yeah.
kind of deal with my emotions, which is probably not the best thing, but it was like always just like in survival mode, like get this shit done. Like I need to make it, or else like I'm on the streets,
Totally.
you know?
But also to validate you, like we're sitting here right now and
Yeah.
you just shared so much of yourself with me and you're giving so much and you're saying so much and you're so aware, you're so self-aware. And I think that you should also know that you're not as closed off as you think, because the fact that you just sat in this
Yeah,
space
sure.
with all the friends that you have as well, like there's people that will always be there for you and are that close to you no matter what you share. Like sometimes you don't have to say anything and people will still be there for you. So I don't think you're as closed off as you think.
No, you're probably right.
We just refilled our glasses of
Yes,
wine
that's
because
a heavy
we are going to
pour.
talk about something that we don't always talk about on this podcast, and that might truly be my own fault.
Into it.
I am very shy when it comes to talking about sex, and sexuality is something that I love to talk about separate from myself, but I
Yeah.
definitely would say I struggle with my own sexuality in the sense that I am so shy sexually.
Really?
I have a really hard time. I'm a heterosexual woman.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah.
am straight as it gets.
Straight as an arrow.
But
Yeah.
I'm not sexual. So I almost am on this like weird spectrum of like questioning myself if I'm asexual or
Interesting.
like why I don't have sexual
I
like
didn't know
impulses. And it's something I really struggle with. And I think being around you, it's like such a juxtaposition for me because like you are so forthcoming with your sexuality.
Like too forthcoming.
And with like your like way of talking about sex. I mean, you know what? I'm going to say it. I grew up thinking that like masturbation and all of those things were like shameful.
Oh, really?
And not because of how I was raised, not anything other than my own interpretation of it. That was how I grew up.
I think that masturbation for girls is like not a spoken thing.
No.
I know, like my
the
girlfriends,
word makes me literally crawl. Like the fact, like saying it, that word makes me crawl out of my skin.
Which is kind of sad because it's like masturbation is like a self-pleasing thing. It's just something that.
Do you want to know the shock I experienced when I found out that every friend of mine owns a vibrator? I was like,
that's actually surprising to me.
I was like, that's normal. Like to me, I'm like, porn is inappropriate and not normal.
Oh my God.
Vibrators are not okay. And me, I'm just sitting here and I'm like,
so you're a nun. Like you do. I'm making my dad on the phone. Like, do you want to like go with him?
Like, and it makes me sad because like I don't want to be this way. Yeah. I just like don't understand how to talk about sex in like a normal way. It makes me so uncomfortable. And that's why I'm glad to have you here because you're really going to balance me out because we are slightly polar opposites when it comes to this kind of stuff. So if you're down,
let's do it.
I would like to just get into it because we haven't done that yet.
I love getting into it.
Okay. So ever since I've known you, you have been very open about your sex capades.
No filter,
if
nothing. If
anyone follows your close friend's story, which they are lucky to, they are lucky to follow it.
So
you are so open and honest, and it just. First off, it makes me laugh because you're fucking hilarious, but it's also like the stories of things you've experienced are insane. So where does your like sexual openness come from?
You know, it's funny because growing up, I actually grew up in a household that sex was never spoken about.
Same.
My dad, I mean, it was like the thing where like I could watch any R-rated movie with my family, gore, violence, cussing, never an issue at all. But if anyone is having sex, it's like turn it off, done. We're not talking about. Like it was totally taboo in my house. So like for me, being so open was definitely a process. Honestly, being just very candid, I think became so open with my sexuality because I realized that amongst my straight friends, it was like a very unknown. I just like pushing the boundaries. I mean, you've seen me, like our friends are like very straight, especially the boys are very straight. And I give no fucks. I'm like, I want to just like make them uncomfortable, but like they appreciate it. And like, I appreciate that they appreciate it, you know? No one's ever like given me like a negative, like look or said anything negative. Like they kind of like laugh because they're like, visibly uncomfortable, but like not in a rude way at all. Because they just like don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah, I kind of love that though. I love when our guy friends are like,
no, because the straight boys don't know what to do with me because I like think that I can like. They like see me as one of them, but then I'm talking about like getting railed and like on a Saturday night.
It's like you said, you are very straight passing. You're very straight passing, and I think that that's so like that's part of why like sometimes the guys in our
they don't
group,
know what to do with me.
They don't expect it. It's like you're talking about getting railed, and then you throw in the fact that it was by a dude, and they're like, whoa.
And then I'll talk to you about like how the Rams did on Sunday, and like I can talk to you about football. I know everything, like the Lakers.
Right. Okay. So I'm gonna ask you the question. What is the number of sexual partners you have had up to date today?
Oh my God. Okay, so I actually kept track for a while because I thought it was funny.
Well, of course.
And I like had a list until I was about 21. I lost track after 120 when I was like 21, and I've been out for like 3 years. So I had like sex with over 100 people in a few years. And I lost that list. Unfortunately, I kind of wish I had kept it. Like there's times where I'm like, should I go back and like have an hour sit down with myself and like update really this list? Like penetration or like this oral count? We can let's say because it's very drastic. There's a big difference.
Okay. Well, now I'm curious. So let's start with both, and then let's talk simply penetration.
Okay. So if you're including oral, because as a gay man having penetrative sex is a process. So penetration, I'm like maybe like a 350 to like a 500.
The woman was too stunned to speak.
Ali's face right now. Oh my God.
I mean, you just have to understand we're having a conversation here with like the least sexual person and the
I'm
most. So like there's like we're talking opposite ends.
No, and I no, totally, and I'm like, and I embrace it, and I'm like, I'm like proud. I like wear the slut badge with honor. And so penetration, I'd say like 350 to 500, and then like oral, maybe like 700 to like an 8. I'd say I
Wow.
have double the amount of oral experiences that have penetration. So if it's like 500, I'm probably close to 1,000.
Wow.
I don't know.
I'm impressed. That's
I mean,
honestly impressive. Do you actually enjoy it every
You
single
know,
time?
being very honest with you, I feel like I have to do it. Like I
Really?
feel like being part of the community that I'm in, it's so hypersexualized.
Yeah, it
that like
is.
if I'm not doing anything on a Tuesday afternoon, I'm like, I should be having sex. Like, why am I not having sex right now?
That's actually really
No,
interesting.
it's actually a pressure, and I think that being a lot of my close gay friends are a lot older, and so I think that I've kind of taken their mentality at a young age and been like, okay, I need to be having sex, or else like
100%.
or else I'm doing something wrong, which is actually
I never
now that I'm
thought
saying
about
it out
that.
loud. It's weird because like I come from a very hypersexualized, super active world,
Absolutely.
and so for me, like having sex is like a chore at this point because it's like I sincerely on a weekend if I'm like not fucking, then it's like I didn't do much this weekend.
Yeah,
And it's
like-
it's weird, and it's honestly to the point. So when you go to like, do I enjoy it? It's like I love it, but it's like for me, like sex with somebody that I actually know it and like is like so much hotter, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
But like there are times where I literally will force myself to hook up with someone just because I feel like I should be hooking up with someone as a gay man.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
Wow,
fucked.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
that's
fucked.
actually really fucked,
Yeah.
but also really, really interesting. And I
Yeah.
think something that's not super talked
No,
about. And
it's
it actually
not.
makes a lot of sense because I do agree with you that the community is
Super
very
sexual.
hypersexualized,
Super
especially with
sexual.
like this new wave of like being gay,
Yeah.
almost being like, what's the word? Fetishized. Like
Yeah,
people love to
no.
have the gay best friend.
Totally.
People love to have all
We're
of
like a
that. And
toy,
like
yeah.
they want the super flamboyant
They
guy
want the
who has all the
stories,
stories of like
exactly.
how many people have you fucked and how open about it are you? Like that's definitely a thing.
It 100% is. And it's like I feel like I need to have sex to kind of fulfill this role I play. So I do have a lot of sexual encounters, and do I enjoy it all? I do feel like it's forced a lot of the time. So that's
Well,
answer
that
your
makes me
question.
kind of sad.
No, but it's okay.
Because
like,
I
trust
feel
me,
like
if I'm getting my
something
dick
I-
sucked and it's forced, like there's a lot worse things I could be pressured into do. Is all I'm gonna say on like a
Okay,
Tuesday
fair.
afternoon on my lunch break.
But like, think of it this way: like, as your friend, like
Yeah.
I associate you as someone who's super open about it
Yeah.
and like loves to talk about it and is funny about it. But then I think
Totally.
about it now, and it's like I can even see flaws in my friendship with you, where I'm like, well, now that I know that you kind of feel like some of it's forced. It's like I'm not saying I'm going to change. I'm not
No,
saying I'm going to be any different
you
towards you.
shouldn't.
I'm not going to look at you differently.
Yeah.
I'm not going to anything. But like, I'm not going to fetishize your body count for no reason.
But I'm gonna tell you this. One, I've never felt like any type of pressure or anything from you nor anyone in my friend group. And
Yeah.
two, actually, what I'm actually referring to is actually in within the gay community. Talk about like misogyny within a community that has no women. It's insane. Because like if you were like a flamboyant, kind of more feminine man, it's terrible and so sad to see like in this gay hierarchy that some people might deem you as inferior
Yeah.
or less than if you're like a flamboyant, or if you're like a bottom, which is like, if nobody knows, a like the receiving
Right.
individual in sex, if you're like
Right.
the one that is being penetrated, for lack of a better term. Like there's a lot of something that we call in the gay community, it's called bottom shaming. And it's actually, I think it's actually deep rooted in misogyny in the greater scale of the world.
100%.
And that it's actually sexist, that although yes, we're in this strictly a male community. However, there's still misogyny permeates the walls from our upbringing and from just society in general,
100%.
because like femininity, in my experience, has been deemed lesser than, inferior, worse. Like people would want to associate with maybe guys that are more flamboyant. And if you're masculine, if you can like be straight passing, it's better, it's hotter, it's sexier, you get more invites to places. And so it's tough.
There's
but
layers.
there's
I mean,
layers.
there's so much more to
Yeah.
it. There are so many nuances to this, and there's so much to unpack, and like
1000%.
there's so much to learn. It's really crazy, and I think it's really interesting to have this conversation with you because we could go on for hours about this. It's
No, I wrote my senior thesis about it.
I mean, it's
actually.
insane. And so I'm going to segue a little bit because I feel like we've covered so much important information in this episode. Like I literally think we could go on for hours,
I think so too.
and I love it. But I want to ask you one more question when it comes to sex. Tell me your craziest sex location of all time.
Location. Oh my God.
Yes.
So I'm a very big frequenter of bathrooms. I love, because this is what I say. I really like to party, as you know.
Oh, I know.
And I don't want to leave a party. So if I see you and I like you, I'm like, you, me, bathroom now.
I'm not
situation.
leaving.
No. I'm staying at the party.
Coitus, and then
let me also throw in too, if we're at like a warehouse party and there are only porta potties, I will go and fuck you in a porta potty.
And then go back to my friends.
And then go and fuck someone else in the porta potty. Like, I've been having sex with someone in a porta potty, and like the boyfriend of this individual like kicked down the door looking for his boyfriend. So like, I'm sorry.
So you've caused some serious.
But like, they're open. I think he was just like sincerely looking for his boyfriend, and maybe like they have a deal that like, oh, like you need to tell me if you're gonna go fuck some kid, and I guess maybe that wasn't followed through. So yeah, so location. I mean, I've done.
Porta potty's pretty good.
Porta potty, I've done like in a park.
I love you. You're the best. Well, thank you so much. We're going to get to the final part of our episode, which is something I do every episode of Trying to Figure It Out. It's called Alpiece 3, and it's basically just my way of incorporating music into the podcast because, you know, I love music and have a passion for it.
You love music.
I do. So something that we've experienced together.
Yes.
A few times.
More than a few times.
Everywhere we go and go out, we end up on a party bus. And I think that that's honestly the most ridiculous thing ever.
No, it's actually, it's
But
insane.
like, we've had some memories on the party bus. So what are 3 songs that come on the party bus that get you and I going together? We can do this.
Honestly, so I was going to say I'm like a hip hop girl.
Yeah, you are
like,
a hip hop
I
girl.
can get into like a hip hop, like a Drake, like a that. I like when people always ask me like, what's your favorite song? My default, I just like to practice in my head because I feel like it's not an uncommon question.
It's a very
My
common.
default is always Work, Rihanna, Drake.
Love it.
Is what I default to just because it's like a classic. Everyone knows it. I feel like it like kind of gives me like a little bit of cred, but I always back it up with like, and people like it. Like I know it's like so mainstream and I want to have like a favorite song that's like not as mainstream. So I'm cooler, but for
I've given up on that.
No, I agree. And also like
that.
if you ask me my favorite song and I tell you like some song that's like, you don't know, like that's not fun.
No, it's not.
So I'm going to go with Work, Rihanna, Drake because like everyone knows it. Everyone can get down to Work, Rihanna, Drake.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one.
Work.
Yes.
I think Fergalicious.
Okay, I love a Fergalicious. Like you, me, Party Bus, Vegas, Fergalicious. I'm losing my shit. Shirt is coming off. I'm dry humping somebody.
And I'm spinning on the pole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously.
And then I'm like feeling mad that you're getting attention and I'm not, and I'm kicking you off the pole, and then I'm going on the pole because I'm wanting attention is actually what's happening.
Okay, one more. I would say
I'm thinking like
you know the song Fake ID?
Dominic Fike. No,
Dominic
Fike is my, if it's, okay, so we live in LA, we're based in LA. If it's a sunny Saturday or Sunday, if I'm like kind of stoned and I'm like out with my friends, like Dominic Fike radio, Spotify, go to, highly recommend to anyone out there.
He's great.
Yeah, I like so strongly fuck with Dominic Fike.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Quentin. I literally could not love hanging out with you more. I would like to get a little more serious for one more second. I just want to say the stories that you shared today are so personal and so deep. And I know that it can be really sensitive for some people to hear certain stories that are covering the topics that we've talked about. For anyone who is struggling, there are so many resources out there that you can reach out to, that you can use to help yourself. And just more importantly, know that you're not alone. Know that there are people out there who want to help you and who can relate to you. The whole point of this podcast is for anybody out there to feel just even slightly less alone in any way possible. And I am just so grateful for everything you shared today. I learned so much from you. I learned stuff about you that I didn't already know. And I'm just really grateful for you. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. And honestly, off that note, I just want to say to anybody listening that maybe resonates with my story that I know you've heard it before, but sincerely, things do get better. I mean, I know, hear stories all the time about queer people, taking their own lives or, maybe struggling with mental health. And I am truly like a living proof that things get better. And I've struggled so hard. I know that, we had a lot of like lighthearted conversation, but I've been in the dumps and it has been really, really tough in certain points. But I just want to say that things do look up and to persevere and to focus on yourself and, work. And maybe if you're a party boy like me, maybe not so much to party and then really, give importance to career and friendships that actually matter, and it does get better is what I'm saying. So thank you,
Absolutely.
Allie.
Thank you. And also
it.
just one final note. Some people can use humor. Some people
Yeah,
can use
I'm one of
lighthearted
them.
ways of telling stories.
Absolutely.
So for those of you who are listening who can relate to Quentin's story, but don't talk about it with the same sense of humor or the same exact narrative that Quentin does,
Totally.
there are still people who understand you and people who support you and
Absolutely.
look after you and understand what you're going through. So thank you, Quentin.
Thank
You are
you.
amazing. And thank you everyone listening. I hope you enjoyed it because I sure as hell did. We've been taping for way longer than we normally do.
I'm
and
sorry.
No, and it's the best thing ever. I had such a great time with this interview and I'm so excited that you are here and finally on Trying to Figure It Out. So thank you. And thank you all for listening. I will see you all next week.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys.